would have been a bigger debacle. It would have been the government taking over. The government doesn't know what it's doing, and we needed their expertise. No, we had to. We had to give all of the money to the banks and almost none of it to the homeowners. Why? Because it would eventually help the middle class. Now, did it? Did it trickle down to us? No, not really. The banks mainly kept it, and that's why we're still in a rut. We haven't really recovered after all these years. But we were told we had no other choice. But that's interesting because it turns out there is another choice, and Iceland decided to pursue it. Back in 2008, they also had an epic collapse, and in fact, their banks defaulted on $85 billion. Now, especially for the size of Iceland, that is gigantic. So they had an enormous problem. In fact, their debt-to-income ratio back in 2008 was an unbelievable 240%. So the size of their problem was even larger than the size of our problem when you look at it per capita and proportionally. So huge problem. Well, then obviously you need to make sure the banks are afloat, right? Otherwise, they can't take the action that they need to take. Here's what the people of Iceland decided instead. No, we're coming for you. And not only did they have protests, but they were starting to throw rocks at the parliament building and saying, we're not going to take this crap. So instead, this is the route that they went. They indicted their former prime minister, Geir Haarde, who of course I have no idea how to actually pronounce his name. Sorry for all the mispronunciations. And then they decided, well, that's not enough, so let's go ahead and arrest the former chief executives of the 3 biggest banks. So there they go. And over 200 criminal charges for the bankers. Now, wait, we were told here in the United States, well, you can't do that. Oh, these are the bankers. You can't do that. You'll destroy the economy. In fact, not only did they do that, but the former CEO of one of their top banks, Landsbaki Islands, got stints in solitary confinement. They Bradley Manninged him. We Bradley Manning people who are actually trying to expose what the government is doing wrong. They do it for people who actually destroy their economy. Who's more logical? Well, let's find out. So what was the result of all this? Well, this is interesting. They decided to give actual relief to the homeowners. So what they did was they forgave debt exceeding 110% of home values. So if you were underwater and it was above 110%, they just forgave that portion of the debt. Now, here in the U.S., that makes people in power's head explode. How could you, these irresponsible people? Who, the bankers who crashed the economy? No, I love those guys. No, the homeowners who got tricked by the bankers into taking these loans with exploding interest rates. No, we can never forgive them. But wait, Iceland did it, so we'll see how that turns out. And then they had a loss equivalent to 18% of the gross domestic product. The banks did. Again, we were told, what 13% of GDP for the banks? What can you do? They don't do it. And the debt was relieved for more than a quarter of the population. Again, here they would say, no way. That's actually helping real citizens. That would be a death knell for the economy. Okay, interesting. So how did it turn out? Oh, damn it. Look at this. In 2009, their economy tanked. It shrank by 6.7%. So I guess they were right? Iceland's economy goes down in 2009 to 6.7, down 6.7%. So they were right. Wait, wait, I'm getting further numbers here. What am I hearing? Oh, it turns out that in the ensuing years, in 2010, it went up 2.9%. And then in 2011, it went up 2.4%. In fact, it is now doing much better than the European Union. And it's even doing better than the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Those are all the developed countries. So they're beating the rest of the world. But wait, I thought that if we went after the bankers, that our economy would never improve. That we would be in desolate condition and we would be in a depression that we couldn't possibly recover from. It turns out that if you actually help your citizens and jail the bankers, it actually helps your economy greatly. Now, Iceland doesn't even want to join the European Union anymore. They're like, why would we join those losers? Those guys are still trying to prop up their banks, their bank executives. They're still funneling money to all those guys and doing austerity for their citizens, cutting from their citizens and giving to the bankers. That is a proven failure of a strategy. It didn't work in Europe. It hasn't worked in the United States of America. The one place where they did what at the time Paul Krugman said, I said, Simon Johnson said, so many other of top economists said, hey, why don't we nationalize the banks? Why don't we give relief to actual citizens instead of the top banking executives that caused the collapse? Well, they tried it in Iceland, and it worked. It worked better than almost anywhere else in the world. Finally, Fitch Ratings, which gives them, of course, the ratings based on, how well they're doing, how stable they are, etc., had to conclude at the end, quote, "The unorthodox crisis policy response has succeeded." It was so unorthodox to actually give the advantage to the citizens rather than the bankers, but shockingly enough, it has succeeded. There is another way of doing it. Iceland did it. It worked. It would also work here in the United States, but since our politicians are corrupt and captured by those top banking and multinational corporation executives, we will not do that, because our politicians do not work for the population. They have no interest in helping the population. They work for the banking executives and all of their other top donors. So don't let them lie to you and tell you, oh no, we have to help the bankers, otherwise there's no way to help the economy. It is the exact opposite of the truth. If you actually went after the bankers, you would help the economy. And if you needed any more reason to hate Tim Geithner, well, this will do it for you.